Welcome to Incite Innovation, an IE podcast that empowers innovation leaders and inspires teams to think boldly, act strategically, and spark transformation. I'm Anna, your host, and I'm joined by Isaac, our AI analyst, to break it all down.
Hi all, Isaac here, and I'm excited to dig into this with you.
Today, we're diving into how people actually use AI across two massive platforms based on two recent publications. On one side, we've got Claude, both the consumer app and the enterprise API, from Anthropic's latest economic index. On the other side, OpenAI's ChatGPT consumer usage from a fascinating new NBER study.
We're going to explore where folks are finding real value, what shifted over the past year, and how these trends align with Innovationedge's invisible teammate framework for understanding the design choice of what role AI should play in your own team. Let's jump in.
So let's start with the big picture. Give us the quick rundown. How is each platform being used today?
Sure. So with Claude's consumer app, we're seeing growing use in education, science, research, and content creation. But here's what's really interesting. There's been a noticeable shift toward what I call automation-style prompts. People are increasingly telling Claude to just do the whole task, rather than asking for help thinking through it. On the enterprise side, with Claude's API, companies are using it heavily for coding and office admin automation. It's very much automation dominant there. Now, ChatGPT consumer usage looks different. It's heavily concentrated in three areas: practical guidance, seeking information, and writing. At work specifically, writing is the big use case, while coding actually represents a pretty small share for consumer users.
Interesting. So both platforms are clearly helping with knowledge work, but the texture feels quite different. What are the key similarities you're seeing first?
Great question. Two things come to mind as big standout similarities. First, writing and guidance are absolutely core on both platforms. People are using these models to draft content, revise their work, and make decisions faster. Second, and this is crucial, features fundamentally shift user behavior. When platforms add web search capabilities, research modes, or image tools, people immediately change what they're asking for. We see more research-heavy requests on Claude when those features launch, more multimedia requests on ChatGPT when image capabilities roll out.
And what about the key differences? Where do they diverge?
Before I elaborate, the biggest difference here is automation versus augmentation. Claude trends much more toward automation users saying, "Take this task and do it for me." ChatGPT consumer usage trends more toward decision support. "Help me think this through," especially outside of work contexts. The domains are different too. Claude's consumer use tilts heavily toward education and science. And in enterprise settings, coding and admin automation dominate. ChatGPT consumer has coding as a relatively small slice, while guidance, information seeking, and writing are the big three. Here's a reality check from the enterprise side. Claude's API data shows businesses are actually less price sensitive when the tool is truly capable, but they're hitting context bottlenecks. The hard part isn't the AI capability, it's getting the right data and documents into the model in the first place.
Let's talk about what's grown over the past year. Walk me through the key changes.
That's a good question. For Claude Consumer, the share of directive or automation-style prompts climbed from the high 20s to around 40%. That's huge, you know. Education and science tasks have risen significantly. Within coding specifically, we're seeing more creation and less debugging, more one-shot building of complete solutions. Claude Enterprise API remains automation-heavy overall. Adoption is really driven by capability and fit, but the limiting factor is consistently that context supply, getting docs, data, CRM info, codebases properly integrated. ChatGPT consumer shows a fascinating shift. Non-work usage expanded from just over half to roughly 3/4 of all interactions. Seeking information grew significantly. Multimedia usage rose after image features launched. And here's something interesting. Asking style interactions grew and are actually rated higher by users for satisfaction.
So where are users finding the most value? What's really working for people?
For Claude Consumer, it's faster creation and research. Users love that they can give instructions and get finished output. It's particularly good at turning complex instructions into polished results. Claude Enterprise is all about repeatable automation in coding and admin workflows. The ROI really shows up once teams figure out how to wire it into their existing systems. ChatGPT Consumer excels at decision support summaries, laying out options, explanations, and writing assistance that both raises quality and increases speed. Users seem to value that thinking partner aspect.
And what about the flip side? Where are the costs or risks showing up?
Off the top of my head, for Claude, those automation benefits come with labor disruption risk, especially for routine tasks. There's also concern about uneven adoption across regions, potentially widening inequality. Enterprises face significant data plumbing costs to feed reliable context to these systems, while the ChatGPT consumer research leans benefits heavy, but practical risks definitely exist. Over-reliance on model answers without verification, hallucination issues if responses aren't checked, and the usual privacy and compliance concerns depending on how it's used.
If you're a leader trying to place bets on these platforms, what's the North Star for each one?
For Claude Consumer, lean into instruction-to-output workflows. It's fantastic for students, researchers, and creators who want the model to essentially take the wheel and produce complete deliverables. For Claude Enterprise, treat it like an automation platform. The key investment is context integration, connecting your documents, tools, and data so the model can handle end-to-end tasks effectively. ChatGPT Consumer works best as a thinking partner. It really shines at framing decisions, drafting assistance, and explaining complex topics, especially outside heavy engineering contexts.
We now have an understanding of how individuals and business have been using the two largest AI platforms in the world to operate more effectively. But how can business leaders use these reports to make their own calls on the role AI can play in their business? Is there a simple explanation for the divergent paths these companies are heading?
If I think about, yes, Innovationedge's own AI and automation leader, Rich Gilbert, has put together a framework to help leaders be choiceful in their design decisions for how AI comes to life in your own organization's projects. It is called the Invisible Teammate Framework, and it works like this. There are three main roles AI can play within teams. Spot the risk, which add value through risk management. Pick the path, which adds value through decision support. And tame the task, which adds value through status updates. First, there is spot the risk. Instead of waiting for problems to surface, using AI to flag delays, dependencies, and risks early so your team stays on track. Think of it like a GPS predicting traffic before you run into it. Second, there is pick the path, which is when the road forks, make smarter decision with less guesswork. Let AI recommend the best path forward with evidence so you can lead with confidence in your choices. Lastly, there is tame the task, focused on saying goodbye to busy work. Making AI your virtual taskmaster by using it to automate updates, establish dashboards for communication, and send reminders to keep teams focused on what matters most.
So how can the Invisible Teammate framework be applied to OpenAI and Anthropic? Where would they fall based off their report use cases?
Now, applying the Innovationedge's Invisible Teammate framework to these updates from Anthropic and OpenAI, Anthropic first is operating closer to the Tame the Task role. This is based on their higher uptick in automation and code-based use cases, where individuals and businesses are continuing to streamline their operations by incorporating AI where it makes sense. By harnessing Claude's API, it can be hardwired as part of automations and agent designs. For OpenAI, their role more closely aligns to pick the path in the various written augmentations and supporting the various "how could I" type questions. Both platforms can effectively play the role of spot the risk as well, if incorporated into specific tools or with proper guardrails for implementation. However, this requires change management to shift user behavior towards adoption for it to be successful.
Wow, thanks for that debrief on the Invisible Teammate framework. Switching gears and looking ahead, where do these trends push AI overall over the next 12 months?
Give me a moment. I'm considering a couple of angles.
Sure, take your time.
All right, I got it. I see three major arcs. First, a bifurcation of use cases. Consumers will keep flocking to decision support and writing assistance, while enterprises double down on automation wherever they can get good data context. Second, context is absolutely king. The winners will be the technology stacks that make it easy and secure to bring private data into prompts and AI agents. Third, multimodal everywhere. Expect steady growth in image processing, document analysis, and web-grounded workflows, with lightweight AI agents handling small chains of tasks rather than single interactions.
All right, rapid fire time. Give me one actionable recommendation for each type of user.
Students and researchers, try research modes with web grounding. Shift from "help me think about this" To produce a first draft with citations that I can verify. Creators and marketers. Use directive prompts with style guides to get near final drafts, then iterate from there. Engineers and ops teams in enterprise. Identify one admin or coding task that repeats daily. Pilot an API-level automation with tight guardrails and actually measure the ROI. Managers and analysts. Standardize a decision support template in ChatGPT. Summarize, compare options, recommend, identify risks. Then track both time saved and decision quality improvements.
Last question. What should our listeners watch for as a signal that this market is really maturing?
So I would watch for 3 things. Native integrations that reduce context wrangling, think documents, support tickets, CRM data flowing directly into prompts without manual copying and pasting, governance dashboards that actually track model-made changes and their outcomes, and task success rates steadily climbing as models get better at handling long, multi-step instructions reliably.
That wraps our deep dive. 2 major platforms overlapping value in writing and guidance, but diverging in automation versus augmentation approaches. The future seems to be shaped by context, integration, and multimodal capabilities. Thank you, Isaac, for the comprehensive tour through this AI landscape. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us on Incite Innovation. We hope this episode has given you a fresh perspective on how enterprises and individuals are interacting with the world's largest AI model providers. As you start evaluating your own applications for AI augmentation or automation, reach out to the Innovationedge team, and our experts can help guide you to your intended destination or apply the learnings of the Invisible Teammate framework to spot the risk, pick the path, or tame the tasks ahead. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast for future episodes on the latest insights that impact business, technology, and innovation, or check out our website at https://innovationedge.com.
Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share Incite Innovation with your friends.
Until then, keep innovating and remember to get started today.